Nice one. Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another week here at the RGM Experience podcast with me, Carl Maloney. And I'm here with the Rosellas lads, Ewan and Drew. Hey up, boys. How we doing? You all right?
I'll do.
Yeah, mate.
Hiya, mate. Hiya, boys. Hiya, boys. So last time we had you guys on an RGM live gig was, I think it was just the weekend before the pandemic, the big global bastard took everything away from us. And I can remember having you guys on at Atma with Spangled on at the time and a couple of other bands. And that just seems like, it feels like 50 years ago compared to how much we've seen you guys develop as a band and crack on with everything compared to just such a, it is, what is it, like 3 years ago when that.
Yeah, about that,
happened. Mad that, innit?
Yeah, I remember that gig really well because that was the first time we'd done a gig with Spangled, and I remember it really well because I think it was our first gig at Atma, weirdly.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It was the last one before lockdown.
I can remember people talking about this virus. It's all over Italy. It can't come over here. And people were just starting to be worried about it, and thinking about going out to gigs. Is it a good idea and all that kind of stuff? It's just a different world, all that now. Just thinking back on that shit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I remember it happening though, like incrementally from gigs. Like you remember we played what was it in Liverpool? Sound Basement in Liverpool. It's not there anymore. But we were supporting a band called the Rosellas, and I think that last week of gigs, it might have been in that same week that we played Atma with you, that we did Liverpool, and we did one in Leeds. We had like a little tiny mini tour going on because we were in our absolute infancy. And I remember hearing like drips and drabs through the news that like, oh, you know, this shit's coming over. It's all going to be stopping. And we were like, nah, we're just getting momentum. This is bollocks, mate. We're doing all right. We're doing all right. And then I think literally maybe a week or two after that was when it all just kind of went kaput. And we felt proper cheated out of it at that time, you know what I mean? Because we just built a little bit of momentum, just started doing gigs, just started like a tiny little tour. We were buzzing. And then it was like, all right, you can put fucking full stop on that for now, lads. Give it another 2 years.
As if like, you know, being in the music industry weren't tough enough. And you just like literally just was right. You've got a bit of momentum, Rosellas boys. You know what I mean? Oh, get back in your bedrooms and you're not going out for 2 years.
Well, you know what? I think that obviously some people had different experiences over lockdown with COVID, and obviously many people would have been affected by losing loved ones and a lot of tragedy. But if you're referring to a band and how it affects a band specifically, me and you have spoke before about how, if anything, it kind of benefited us in a lot of ways, because it meant that me and Ewan would spend all of those days sat at home just writing. We were just writing all the time. Do you know what I mean? We had fuck all else to do. I was playing FIFA, drinking Boddingtons and writing. It's pretty much all you had to do every day. And you're not having to worry about work or anything. And we'd just be sending each other tunes, 5-10 tunes a week. And a lot of them got tossed in the bin and never used. But it meant that we filtered through the shit because of the sheer volume we were writing. And I think if that never happened, and let's say we kept up the momentum of that first week that I'm talking about, we might never have written some of the songs that we have today. You know what I mean? The amount of material was sat on now, we can thank the lockdown for. And I know you feel that way anyway, Ewan, don't you?
Yeah, every song that's come out since lockdown up to now was written in lockdown. And I was going to say before, we were in a good position because had that happened now, I think we'd be even more fucked than we were, because we didn't really. We had a bit of momentum, but nothing like what we've got now. And it was easier to pick it back up again and sort of, get back into our stride. We're in a better position song-wise as well. But if that was now, we'd be in more trouble.
Do you think, guys, if lockdown hadn't happened, do you think you'd have been a worse band now than what you are then? When I say worse, I don't mean as prolific or as strong songwriters. That's all I meant by it.
No, probably not. Probably not, to be honest. Probably not. But I think we'd be better. I don't know. That's a good question. I think we'd be worse songwriters had it not happened.
But might be worse songwriters,
but a better live band.
Yeah, might be a bit further along on the live side, because you got to think about it was like a 2 year period, really, wasn't it? Where the only thing you could do to get any form of performance was a live stream sat on your bed in your fucking bedroom. Do you know what I mean? There was none of that. Like every time you're on stage in front of crowds, you learn something. No matter how big or how small, you learn something about yourself. You learn how to behave. You learn what works with people, and all the time you're molding your character to be more efficient at your job. You know what I mean? And being starved of that for 2 years, when we came back at it. I know me in particular, I was just sort of pissing in the wind a bit, being a front man. I was like, right, I don't really know what I'm doing here because I haven't done it for about 2 years.
Yeah.
But now I've got to a point where I feel quite comfortable and I know what kind of works, what doesn't work, what I can say, what I can't say, etc., etc. So I think in that sense, we may have been a bit more, just put it down to experience. Do you know what I mean? But I know for a fact we wouldn't have written as many songs as we did if that hadn't happened.
Drew, how do you decide what you can't say these days?
I'm very much myself, to be honest, Carl. I'd say a lot of the time what I genuinely believe, and I say a lot of the time what I think. And, I like at our gigs, all of us as a five are extremely grateful for the things that we've been given by the people, even this far. Do you know what I mean? It might be a bit cliche to say, but like every rock band will say to you, like, oh, the best thing about this band is the fans and that, but it's fucking true. Right? We're not 5% of the way where we want to be yet. Do you know what I mean? The ambition is way, way further than where we are. But how grateful we are for these people that are into us, even putting us on the ladder. I feel like I have to say that at a lot of the shows. Well, I feel like I want to say that at a lot of the shows, especially when we did Manchester Academy. And like we sold out the date up in Edinburgh, sold out Newcastle, sold out Leeds, like all these little shows where you really feel the room being like into you and, supporting what you're about. You just thank people for it and you make them feel like you acknowledge them. I hate these bands that like don't say a fucking word on stage. And it's all about this cool persona. And it's all like, nah, we're too cool for school. Straight after the gig, we're going to fuck off to the dressing room and not talk to any of you. Do you know what I mean? Because we're not really about that. We owe a lot to the people that have got us to the point that we're at. And that's what, I try and say that as much as I can without being cringy. Do you know what I mean? You can overdo it. You can overdo it. But
how do you self like what's the word I'm looking for?
moderate it.
Yeah, how do you judge that in your own mind, that without going over the edge type thing then?
I think that when I knew I wanted to get into a band, like even before I'd met you and the other lads, when I just knew that music was something that I wanted to do, I've just watched countless interviews of the people that sort of inspired me to do what we're doing now. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to say studied, but I've sort of inadvertently, just through watching how they are and how they talk, I've just sort of taken subliminal notes from it. And I don't know, you know what feels right. Like I said before, I trust my gut and I sort of know, I know when you're over chatting and I know when you're underselling something and I know when you're probably going to offend someone or something like that. Do you know what I mean? When you're in a limelight like that, I guess, you just say what you mean and you say what your heart really thinks, but you just have to moderate it by being smart. Use your brain. You know what I mean? Common sense, man. I would put it down to.
And you and yourself there, mate, stood to the side playing guitar and stuff. How do you feel about that relationship with you and the people you've got dancing about in front of you?
Yeah, that's true. It's brilliant. We've been to a lot of gigs ourselves, and you want to feel that sort of connection to the band that are playing, and just by Drew acknowledging them, or thanks for coming or whatever, or it makes it more special, I think. And like Drew said before, we don't disappear after the gig. Like before the gig, we'll watch the support bands, we're kicking about in the pub, and then afterwards the same. So people, I think we're quite approachable as people. So, like fans who come to watch us, they come up to us and they'll sit and have a pint with us, and it's, that's part of it. I think it's part of the whole gig. The gig isn't the 20 minutes you're on stage; it's the, the hours and hours around it where you're interacting with people, and I think that's what makes it so special. And you definitely feel it back. Like you feel more supported when you're looking out in the crowd and you see people you recognise from other gigs and it's Yeah, it's quite special.
There's definitely a bit of this that goes on in Manchester that I've noticed from coming over here, where bands do tend to be a bit short-sighted and disappear into the back and think they're cool and put a leather jacket on and stand against the wall and all that bullshit. You know what I mean? There's quite a lot of that.
Yeah, that's me.
Is it? Well, I'm only joking about that kind of stuff, halfly, I suppose. But I had Martin Atkins on the podcast previously, who's been in Pill, and loads of big bands. He teaches people in Chicago out there at the minute now, Martin Atkins. And the biggest thing that he told me to progress as a band is to hang around behind gigs and to hang around the merch stand. If somebody's skint, lose a bit of money, give somebody a t-shirt, if you know it's hard times at the minute, you make a fan for life just with those type of gestures, and you build real relationships by hanging around after a gig. It's so important. And it seems so obvious really, but there is that element of bands where they'll just fuck off after and just sit drinking fucking Carling with the mates in the back. So it's just like, the
time to check the time in the world to do that.
Yeah, you have. Yeah.
We did a gig in Eddie, was it in Glasgow? And there's these lads come up to us after, and they were like, "Oh, we're buzzing. We might come tomorrow to Edinburgh." And we were like, "Oh, it's sold out, but give us your names and we'll just get you in."
Yeah.
And they came the next day. We give them a t-shirt and just sort of looked after them because it was so sort of surreal for us to be up in Glasgow, and these people knew exactly who we were. They knew all the songs. They knew us all by name and and you feel like you want to look after these people and give them something back. So, like you said, with hanging around the merch desk and giving them, that's what that sort of thing we'll do. I mean, we won't do it to everyone. So, when people
you'll never plug it into
get free merch.
Yeah.
Publicly on record saying that. Yeah. That's what I mean by the common sense to all us five. That just is common sense.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We're all about. We want to incentivize the people to come back to the gigs. Do you know what I mean? And whether that be a 30-second conversation, £5 off a t-shirt because they're a broke student, or 10 minutes for a pint, or even a cigarette outside. Do you know what I mean? Just something to make it a bit more personable. Because you can only do that shit where you're dead elusive and mysterious when you're at the height of like DMAs, Sam Fender, and all them. If you get that up your own arse this early on in the game, you're gonna fuck yourself. Do you know what I mean?
I completely agree with that, and I do see a lot of it, and I just find it quite funny. It's so short-sighted and just a bit daft, isn't it? Get down off your own ass.
Yeah.
There's another thing that we did, and this is going back to them Atma days. We used to do a lot of gigs, and it felt like Battle of the Bands. Because everyone's sort of at the same level. You've done about 4 or 5 gigs each, and people, the other bands, they just stare at you, and there's no interaction between the bands. So what we have sort of learned from that, and we're trying to be, we'll watch the support bands and we'll chat to them, and we'll encourage them, and if they're supporting us, we'll encourage them. If we're supporting them, we'll try and learn off them, and just chat to them basically, and show your support for other bands, because at the end of the day, we're all we all got a very common interest, which is that we're all in a band. And especially in the early days, Drew, we found that it was a bit almost hostile, wasn't it, when we played?
Yeah, it was scarce to see a band come in the room and everyone just shake hands. You're right, mate, Andrew, what's your name? Do you know what I mean? Just introduce yourselves, get talking. Where are you from? You want a pint? Did it like a normal fucking human.
Yeah.
It wouldn't happen as often as we thought it would. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We made the point to ourselves. Like, I remember when I went on tour with a band called Planet, and just by chatting to them and spending a bit of time with them in the dressing room and talking to them about the stage setup, and learned a lot from them, in terms of the professionalism and how they carried themselves, and especially because they'd flown all the way over from fucking Australia and they were staying here in a house in Liverpool, for about a year. We just kind of admired the bollocks that they had. And it's a perfect example how just being normal, functioning humans and chatting to each other on a personal level was fruitful for both sides. You know what I mean? We learned from them. They might have learned some things from us, aren't they? They might have learned that you're very good at football. Yeah, I think you're right in that, you. And it was in the early days, it did feel like that. And whenever we have a headline and people come and support us, you got to break the ice straight away, man. Don't make people feel like they're on your show. Do you know what I mean? They're just playing a gig. You happen to be the band that's supplying that gig, but it's not like you hold all the fucking cards. Make people feel wanted and stuff.
Yeah. Bless him. One thing I can remember from the Atma gig though was just seeing how I was really surprised just how tight and how good your songs were back in the Atma
That was
days.
3 years ago, Carl.
I know, yeah. Tell me about it. I need to get to a new one, but I mean, just like because when I catch a lot of bands, you get pulled all over the place, see the over here, that kind of stuff. And when you're at a certain level, and I've got no airs or graces about where I think RGM stands in the industry. It's basically a leg up to get you onto bigger promoters like This Feeling and that kind of stuff. So I feel like we're in that little niche of play with people that maybe have done 5 or 10 gigs that are looking to take things a little bit more seriously and just to, get the name out there a little bit more before they can start contacting these other people. And I can just remember just hearing how tight you were and how well rehearsed you were. Has that always been a bit of a discipline for you guys?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that comes from, especially Drew and Luis and Mark, how good they are at their instrument, and how, like, Luis in particular is unbelievable. Like, as a keyboard player, he's a phenomenal musician. Like, we'll go and support people. Like, we played with Star Sailor, and they've got a keyboard player, and I was watching him and I was going, Luis is better than him. And he's a nice guy. He's called Barry, but he's a really nice guy. But Luis is that good that it really helps with me in particular, because you're sort of thinking, right, well, I've got to be that good. And rehearsing, we still do rehearse all the time, and it's all about, we want to be as good as we can be, and as tight as we can be, and that has to come first, really. So it's something that we do proper sort of aim for and take seriously. And we notice it now with other bands. If they've got good tunes, but they're a bit, like the gaps in between the songs, if you can hear someone tuning, or if you can, they're chatting to each other, it doesn't look as good, I don't think. It doesn't look as professional. Do you know what I mean? And that's what we're trying to do with every gig we do. Like Drew said, we learn off it. So we'll do a gig and we'll go back in the rehearsal room and go, right, there's a gap here. We need to sort that out, and then we'll get someone to fill the gap, and and it does make you better, and it's the sort of thing that people notice, like you did.
Yeah, I'd agree.
The gaps in between songs is very important for me, just to show how professional a band is. If you can stop bang on time, and then you'll all together start in the next song, or if you do like a musical interlude in between 2 songs and you do something cool or something that's well rehearsed and just sounds fucking class, it makes such a difference to a live performance, doesn't it? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, it does, man. That's our ethos as a band as a whole. Do you know what I mean? We're all massively into bands like the War on Drugs and Pink Floyd, and these slightly psychedelic. Well, Pink Floyd are very psychedelic, but War on Drugs are more like psychedelic indie and that. But they have an album called Live Drugs. Anyone watching, you should absolutely go and listen to that album, because it's phenomenal. And the whole thing is pretty much just seamless. You know what I mean? There's only about 10 tracks in it, but every song has an introduction and an outro and then a joining section to the next song. It's like a show. Yeah. And that's what we want people that are coming to our gigs to walk away thinking. We don't just want to be the next indie band that goes like bang, tune, like we're in your face, where it's all fast paced, get rowdy, spill beers over your mates. Like, that's great for a few songs, man. And we want that energy in there. But we also sometimes want people to be stood at the back of the room with the fucking jaw on the floor, not able to speak because they're just in this trance as to what's going on, whether that be the fact that you've just heard 20 minutes straight of music, and it's been indefinable and it's got all these elements of psychedelia in there, acoustic singer-songwriter in there, a bit of rock and roll in there, or, it might be lights in the background. We want to make people talk about Rosellas as something else. Do you know what I mean? It's a show that you're coming to see. And we want to prove the professionalism and musicianship that's in the band, like Ewan was on about, because we're good enough to do it, and we rehearse well enough to do it, You've just got to have the bollocks and the drive to make it happen. Do you know what I mean? To cook the ingredients so it makes it work.
Well, so after lockdown and stuff, then, so it was like starting again for a lot of people. How did you guys turn it into such a success? Because you're selling gigs out all over the fucking country now. Well done, congratulations for that, guys. It's beautiful to see. You've nearly sold out Band on the Wall, an amazing redeveloped venue in Manchester now that's coming up, and I do like the way that you're advertising for support bands for that as well. I think that's great, and giving stuff back to the community. How did you pick up the guitars again? And I know you were writing a lot, but how did you physically get out there and get in front of people and engage with all these people so quick?
Well, so what this came from, so you might remember this, Carl, there's a band from Sheffield called The Wired.
Yes, Callum.
So I'm mates with Richard and Caleb, who were in Wired, and they split up in lockdown. And I was chatting to him a lot, going, "How are you getting on?" And he said, "Yeah, we're going to sack it off, mate, because 2 years we're not rehearsing, we're not recording, we're not doing anything. We're all just going to go our separate ways." And I use that as a drive to, well, that's what we can't do.
Yeah.
We just have to stay hungry and stay up for it. And we were just itching to go. Like, we were so desperate to get back out gigging and get back out playing these new tunes that we got. And we sort of all agreed we're going to gig as much as we can. So from lockdown lifting to Manchester Academy that we've just done, that was our 100th gig in year and a half, whatever. And me and Ollie worked it out one night. That was our 100th gig. So we were just so desperate to gig, and we took everything we could. Like, we never said no to a gig. We just did everything we could in any city, supporting anyone. It doesn't matter. We'll just do it. And we were just so desperate, so hungry to do it that it was. There was no question of, oh, I don't know whether we should. What do you think we should do? We all were agreed. This is what we're going to do, and it has sort of helped us now.
We said to each other that, we were talking before about over the lockdown. I remember when we were sat in that field, like me and you went and met up on some camping chairs in a field, and we're like trying to write some towards like the back end of it. I know it sounds like Bob Dylan and Neil Young, that, doesn't it? But we were chatting, saying like, mate, when these floodgates open and all these, like, every fucking band we know is going to be wanting to get on gigs. I remember saying to you, like, we just need to be better. We've just got to be better live than anyone else. We've got to have better tunes. We've got to be tighter. We've got to have more character, because we just knew that as soon as the gig circuit opened back up and people are going again, everyone has been starved of it that long, band side and, production side, that the competition is going to be fucking ridiculous. It's going to be like being in a melting pot with everyone else. So you're right, and we were just hungry, weren't we?
Yeah.
I could still tell you, I could still, that hunger's there. I could see it at ATMA with you all, and I can feel it more now just from speaking to you guys. It feels like there's nothing going to stop you if you get me.
Yeah. Well, that's been the idea. That's been the thing from the start, and it's not a question of when. It's not a question of if. It's a question of when.
Yeah.
We do take it very seriously, as I'm sure a lot of bands do. But we sort of live and breathe it, and all five of us are obsessed with it. And there's nothing better than that, really.
No.
Because you're all pulling in the same direction.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just unanimous, and we decide things together, we work out things together, and we face problems together, and we record together. You know what I mean? We do everything together. Sometimes one of us might be driving the bus a bit more. Sometimes someone else might be taking over T-shirts. Sometimes someone else might be taking over socials. But we all work full time, man. Like, it can be hard to balance it, and the only thing that we've got that keeps our head above water is the fact that, like, say I'm feeling a bit deflated one week, I know that within a 10-minute chat with you, he's brought me right back up because he's feeling an absolute way about something, you know what I mean? Or say he's got a bit of writer's block for a week or something. I've got a couple of tunes that are going on, and we constantly fucking tee each other up. Do you know what I mean?
So how was it like with, all working full time and getting these 100 gigs in? How did you manage that?
Bastard.
I can imagine it
Absolutely
being.
knackered, mate.
I can imagine. Were you like playing like there were obviously there'll have been places where there was just you playing to the bar stuff, that kind of stuff. I presume during that
Yeah,
time,
man, definitely.
and then really busy ones, and it was just really up and down experience. Just talk us through that.
It's bizarre. So I'm working today. Like I work full time, and we used to do we once did a gig in London. We got back at like 4 o'clock in the morning. I was in at 7, and to go from like doing a gig and you're hanging around, everyone's going, "Oh, can you sign this? Can I have a picture of you?" To then going to work. Like, I'm a chef, so it's pretty intense work anyway. It's bizarre. It's like living two lives, but
Yeah.
you've got to do it because this is what we want to do, and that's the sort of the sacrifices you have to make. And I've said this to Drew before. I think if we didn't work, if we just sat around all day and this was what we did, I wouldn't be as driven to do it. I wouldn't be as bothered
No.
because working is what sort of drives me to be better within the band. Do you know what I mean? And it's something that sort of spurs me on. I think I don't want to do this. I don't want to. This isn't what I want to do. I want to do music. I want to be in the band. I want to be writing tunes, and it sort of gives you that extra little, motivation, I suppose, to do it.
I
But
I
it is
kind
knackering,
I,
though.
I kind of feel really similar to you and me because I work full time. I do condensed weeks, so I get a day off in the week, but I do like 10 till 8 on 4 days a week. So I do long days to
Yeah, nice.
get a day off type thing. Because it works for me because like before and after work and on my days off, like today it's podcast day. I'm recording a couple of bands. I've got
Yeah,
Mersicans on later. This is my day off, but it's not like we're working down pit doing music, is it? It's quite enjoyable as well, and it's not
yeah, yeah, yeah,
it's not like a big. The travel's a bastard, but it's a good laugh in it.
yeah. Oh, well, that's the thing. It's a different kind of, So like for example, that London gig, you get back and you're not. It's a different kind of tired. Do you know what I mean? It's like when you finish work, you're knackered, but
Mm.
after the gig, I'm not tired because you've you know I'm enjoying it so much. So it's yeah, it is good. I wouldn't change for the world, but hopefully it don't go on forever because they kill me.
Yeah,
Well,
mate. That's
well,
what I was gonna say.
festival season's upon us. I know you've got these big festivals ahead of you as well, boys. It must be really nice to be on the festival stages now. Just to be in that stage of your career where you get to play these amazing festivals. I know you've got Why Not, you've got By the Sea in Bridlington, you've got the Band on the Wall Manchester gigs. You've got all these gigs coming up, and there'll be a link in the description for you to find tickets for these gigs as well, ladies and gentlemen. Because why not? Let's crack on and support the band. How do you feel about festival season coming ahead? It must be the best part of the year for a band, festival season, surely.
Yeah, yeah, I'd say it is. I mean, we've done it for a couple of years now. Do you know what I mean? Like the first time we played Isle of Wight was 2 years ago. It's like that first time you go to a festival and you're on the production side of things rather than the average Joe ticket paying side of things. It is a West experience, man. Like being behind the fences and behind the stages and getting driven about in a buggy. Like it was
It
fucking.
is weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it was absolutely mint. But then, like second time you do it, you're a bit less, you're a bit more desensitized to it, and you kind of pick up with the way that things work. I absolutely love being at a festival in the summer. I love being like shepherded around and shit, and like going to see a band over there, and then you've got your own set, and then you go to the bar, and then it's just like a little microcosm of everything good about the music industry. But it sometimes means, that like you can have really quick changeover times and stuff like that. So it can be like a lot of pressure on you and a lot of stress. But I think that when you're in the middle of your set, when we're first song in or whatever, and straight after the set, you feel on top of the world, man. Because we've had some big crowds at the festivals we've done, much to our surprise.
And how do you feel about you and how do you feel about festival season, mate?
Oh yeah, I love them. Why Not was brilliant last. We played Why Not last year. It was brilliant. It's a real sort of celebration of music. Not necessarily ours, but like Drew said, everyone who's there is bang into music. So you don't get anyone who's like been brought along. Some guy's brought his missus along because he don't want to go to the gig on his own. It's everyone who's there wants to be there, and it's a different atmosphere at a festival.
It's a massive
It really
opportunity
is.
to
We
find
are.
new fans as well, isn't it? You know, because not
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
your fans, so
Yeah.
you've got thousands of people in front of you that you can, you know, try and impress and get involved with your band.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And the amount of people who've come up to us and said, "I'll show you at Truck, and we'll come see you again. I'll show you at Why Not, come see you again." You know, it is. Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
So what's coming up then after festival season? Or is there anything you can share with us that's coming up in Rosella World?
Well, ideally, it would be more tours. You know,
Yeah.
be it supports, be it headlines. We just want to gig as much as we can. And so this last sort of 6 months, we haven't been gigging as much as we were, which was a choice. You know, we've got
Yeah.
to be, you know, because we've done all the little venues, we've done the, you know, in front of 5 people, and we've brought 4 of them with us. We've done all that. So we wanted to sort of do bigger gigs, but less of them. Do you know what I mean? But I can't speak for you, Drew, but I've not really enjoyed it as much because when you're doing 2 gigs a week, it's brilliant because you get better quicker. Do you know what I mean? Like you learn quicker, and
Yeah,
we
I
felt a
agree.
massive improvement when we were doing that.
I agree with you, man. I think as well we want to release more prolifically because we've got
Yeah,
so many tunes that were sat on, man. I bet every band that comes on this fucking podcast tells you that, but like we genuinely mean it. We've got 2 albums of material written, ready to go. And I mean, the EP that we've just brought out, we were waiting a long time for that to come out, but them tunes were written, you know, coming on 2 years ago. So we've got, you know, the release schedule planned out for the next year is absolutely shit hot. We've got the Band on the Wall show, which we're really pushing. And then, like Ewan said, after that, we're just going to gig relentlessly, whether it be supports or another tour, whatever it is. We need to get that. I know exactly what you mean, Ewan. It's getting that like live drive back in, because although we have
yeah,
done some cool stuff this year, it's stagnated from what we did a couple of years before because we gigged so much more. And I know that, you know, you want to gig less frequently but bigger in your hometown and stuff like that, which we are doing with Band on the Wall. But we're up for getting out to other cities that we've never been to before. Do you know what I mean? And just getting about the country, man, because that's where the enjoyment is.
Yeah, I love the growth of a band and the journey of a band. And when you see, you know, 2 people into music like you two, and you just get the kind of vibe that I'm getting from you, that you're just fucking gonna have it no matter what. I love that attitude, boys.
I appreciate it, man.
So if somebody's hovering over the ticket link now for Band on the Wall, give us a message for the people that are hovering over the ticket link right now. They've not pressed the button yet to come and see you.
stop hovering and press it.
Yeah, stop pissing about. No, like I said before, this Band on the Wall show is going to be a different gravy, man. It's not going to be like any of the other gigs we've done. We're going, you know, fully into a light show, visuals, you know, a show like the set, like all the songs, we're going to meticulously plan out joining them together. And, you know, I want people to come away from it thinking that they've just seen, you know, a little bit of Pink Floyd, a little bit of War on Drugs, maybe a little bit of The Verve, you know, all that. I want people to come out there thinking, who the fuck are they inspired by? I can't pinpoint it. Do you know what I mean? So it's going to be a different show, one that we've never done before.
Yeah, you know, again, you've probably heard that a lot. Oh, this one's going to be the big one, but Band on the Wall will be different. You know, we've already, you know, we've been rehearsing for it for ages already, and we you know, it's going to be special, definitely.
Well, lads, I really appreciate you joining us today for an episode of the podcast. And I just can't wait to see you start flying, you know, past the festival season and cracking on into the new year. I can't wait to see all the new tunes that are coming up. And we just thank you for joining us for the show, guys. Nice one.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it.
Nice one, Carl. Cheers.